There are roads in England older than memory, roads soaked in blood, roads cursed by betrayal, roads forgotten by time. And then there is the Monarch's Way, a path marking the escape route of King Charles II in 1651. History tells us the king escaped safely. History neglects to mention what he traded in return: 6 souls. And every few centuries, the road takes 6 more. Cookdo No Baggins collapses beside the camp after 30 kilometers of walking, a few days shy of 30. An NHS worker, a devoted chess player, a veteran of RuneScape, a dedicated drinker. Some said he had embarked upon the Monarch's Way in search of adventure. Others claimed he was simply experiencing the earliest documented midlife crisis in Dorset. Cookdo himself insisted he was clearing his head. The truth was rather simpler. He was trying to walk away from his problems. Unfortunately for him, his problems had decided to walk with him. Nearby, Thrain Hodges, NHS data scientist, new father, religious fanatic, and inexplicably gifted football prodigy, was somehow jogging in circles around camp for active recovery, despite having slept roughly 6 minutes since his daughter was born. Mordor stood by the fire. Shirtless. Of course, an albino farmer forged by years of agricultural suffering and direct UV hostility. Moore had apparently decided clothing was for cowards. Paulron sat hammering tent pegs while enthusiastically explaining cave systems beneath Southampton to absolutely nobody. And overlooking the campsite stood Glorfindel Gundry, known locally as Lamb, a Hallstock man, owner of a black name and an even blacker past. A man who had spent years walking the road of senseless violence before recently attempting redemption, by which society broadly understood: unemployed, avoiding tax, claiming questionable benefits, and playing approximately 11,000 hours of Age of Empires 2. But beneath the surface, the old rage remained, waiting, sleeping, hungry. Lawnwise arrived carrying supplies. Cookdo smiled. "My hero." Lawnwise threw him an isotonic drink. "You smell like a war crime." Then the fire died. Instantly. No warning, no wind, no sound. Darkness swallowed the fields. And from the road came Trollum, a wretched creature. It had not eaten or drank in days. He stopped beside camp, said only 4 words. "You should leave now." Paulron squinted. "Bit dramatic, mate." Trollum stared toward the woods. "The debt is due." Moore stood, still shirtless. "Right, ghost bloke. Excellent." And immediately behind him, an ancient rusted combine harvester exploded into life. Nobody had noticed it before. Moore turned. That wasn't... Something invisible seized both his legs, dragged him backward. The machine screamed. Metal tore violently. There was a noise like 50 celery stalks being fed into hell itself. Everyone stared in horror. Moore hit the ground hard, below the knees. Absolute devastation. Shredded denim. Blood everywhere. Paulron gagged. Cookdo screamed. Thrain whispered, "Jesus Christ." Moore looked downward. Long pause. Then quietly said, "I think harvest season might be delayed." The woods erupted. Dozens of ghostly soldiers emerged, mud-covered faces, broken swords, rotting uniforms, eyes empty. Lawnwise rose slowly into the air, possessed, screaming in some ancient language. Trollum vanished. Gone. The soldiers advanced. Cookdo looked around. No, absolutely not. Thrain Hodges stepped forward first. Football instincts activated. One ghost charged. Thrain launched himself into the air. Perfect flying volley kick. Connected directly with the soldier's face. Immediate disintegration. Cookdo stared. "You've been holding out on us." Thrain nodded calmly. Year 8 district finals. 2 more charged. Cocteau reached into his bag, produced a heavy wooden chessboard, gripped it tightly. Queen takes pawn. He swung with horrifying force. Ghost skull exploded instantly. Second ghost lunged. Cocteau smashed it across the jaw. Wood splintered. Ghost evaporated. Paulron cracked his neck. Oh, thank God. Physical confrontation. He grabbed a tent pole, spun violently. Years of cave exploration had apparently transformed him into some sort of subterranean gladiator. 3 ghosts collapsed immediately. One received a direct strike to what remained of its kneecaps. Paulron screamed, "Welcome to Southampton!" Nobody knew what it meant, least of all Paulron. Moore looked downward at his ruined legs, annoyed. Very annoyed. That's the funny thing about strength. The weaker you get, the stronger you have to be. He grabbed 2 detached sections of fencing wire, wrapped them around his stumps, stood up. Nobody understood how. Moore pointed at the ghosts. "You picked the wrong farmer." He began hopping forward violently, swinging wild haymaker punches, each strike somehow devastating. Ghosts exploded around him. Cocteau shouted, "He's too angry to bleed." Then, silence. The remaining soldiers stepped back, making way for Glorfindel. No one had noticed him move. Lamb stood perfectly still, head lowered, breathing slowly. The old road had awakened something. Cocteau whispered, "No." Thrain stared. The stories were true. Paulron stepped backward, not the old Glorfindel. Glorfindel slowly removed his hoodie. The night itself seemed to recoil. He looked toward the approaching army, spoke softly. "I swore I left this life behind." Thunder cracked. The earth shook violently. I gave up violence. A pause. I found peace. Long silence. I even signed on properly. The soldiers charged. Glorfindel raised his head, eyes burning. "But tonight..." He clenched both fists. "Lamb returns." And then chaos. Pure violence. Glorfindel moved faster than sight itself. One ghost was punched so hard it entered low orbit over Dorchester. Another had its spine removed despite already being dead. A third simply ceased existing. At one point, Glorfindel somehow suplexed 6 soldiers simultaneously. Paulron whispered, "He's farming kill/death ratio." Thrain nodded. "Age of Empires, reflexes." Cocteau shouted, "He's microing!" Then everything stopped. The final soldier collapsed. The field became silent. The moon returned. The ghosts were gone. Everyone stood panting, covered in blood. Moore somehow remained upright, despite technically no longer possessing functional lower limbs. Trollum reappeared near the trees, eating mini cheddars. Nobody questioned this. Cocteau looked around. "So, we won." Trollum frowned. "Did you?" Paulron blinked. "What does that mean?" Trollum pointed toward the abandoned combine harvester. Something metallic glinted in the moonlight. Thrain stepped closer, bent down, picked something up. Small object. Leather strap. Tiny brass buckle. Moore squinted. "What is that?" Thrain stared at it, confused. "It looks like..." Silence. No one spoke. Very slowly, Glorfindel turned toward the dark woods. Something had moved. Small, fast, low to the ground, watching them, impossible to see clearly. Then from somewhere deep in the trees, 3 knocks echoed. Tap, tap, tap. Cocteau frowned. Did anyone else hear that? No answer, only the distant rustling of branches. Then, a strange sound drifted through the darkness. Brief, almost like laughter, high-pitched, chittering, not human. Trollum slowly looked toward the woods. His face had gone pale, very pale. Quietly, he whispered, "No." Paulron stared. "No what?" Trollum said nothing. Glorfindel narrowed his eyes, the old rage returning. From somewhere far beyond the tree line, something small moved between the shadows. and just for a moment, only a moment, Cocteau could have sworn he saw a tiny silhouette, wearing what looked suspiciously like a 17th century cavalry hat, then gone. The woods fell silent. Nobody moved. Finally, Moore broke the silence. Still shirtless, still covered in blood, still somehow standing. I'm not sure what that was. Long pause. Then, but it was quite hairy.
What? That's the end of it! This is why I don't... Right, that's the end of Monkey News. That's the end of Monkey News. Don't do that again, you've got no features left.
Why don't you like that?
Well, it's just not a story! That's the end of the story! What are you talking about?